The first speaker in the session will be Lieuwe Kool. He is director of the medical library at the Academic Medical Center, which is the university hospital affiliated to the University of Amsterdam. And he is as well a member of the National Licensing Group of the Netherlands. And he will talk a little bit about the Dutch Open Science Initiative. Lieuwe, here you go.
It's my pleasure to be here with you. I got a few topics I would like to discuss. First of all, something about the burden. Well, you might know that there is a professor in Leiden University who is studying the Dutch version of the English language. And she notes all the new words Dutch people who try to speak English add to the beautiful English language. And I would like to add the word deburden. It's of course burden and then do the opposite. That's what my main focus is for today. So I would like to talk a little bit about deburdening my organization, about cooperation, about presenting research, which I think is very important, and in the end, something about future options. Okay, but first of all, just to get a glimpse of who I am. Sorry, that was one too fast. Well, I'm a married guy. I got 3 kids. They ski faster than I do, and I'm very fond of music, so I play the bass. And I don't feel entirely comfortable today because I can't hide behind my bass guitar. But you're not listening. You're not here to listen to my personal hobbies. I think deburden is key to get a good use of pure and output registration. So to keep in mind, for me, output registration should be something like a full service. And this started all in 2006, so far before Pure started as a program, because we had a colleague who was not functioning well. And in the end of the year, he got a lot of articles that needed to be entered in our old-fashioned system built in the beginning of the 90s. So what happened is that the library was overloaded with articles, and the year thereafter, all my colleagues complained that we should do it differently in the next year. So we built our own system. What we did basically, for an academic medical center, it was pretty easy to use PubMed and search for authors and affiliation of the AMC weekly and find all the articles we publish. PubMed is pretty fast, it's pretty good, and for a medical center it's pretty accurate. We entered all those articles, we presented them to the departments, and the secretary of the professor was checking them, and in the end of the year they were finalized by the departments. By doing so, we could be very quick and we could deburden our organization. It got even better when we not only were making reports, but also presented the results directly on the internet on our Who is Who site. It helped enormous to get all the people on board, get all the researchers properly presented. But it was vulnerable. So when Pure started in 2015, we, and that's the AMC, but also the Amsterdam University, we have another university in Amsterdam, the Free University, and the Free University has a medical center as well. We decided to make a consortium together, and we asked Pure to offer us a product that could report on universities or academic medical center level, but also together. So we want to be able to make any kind of report over any unit of all these participants of the consortium. Things were even getting more complicated in 2018 when both medical centers started a merger. So now we want to be able to report on our own organization, but also on a virtual new organization, the Amsterdam UMC. We think that the merger will be complete at the end of 2022. And we need to be able to report back to our mother university, the University of Amsterdam, or the Free University, or whatever combination. So the community model is a key here. We need to be able to make any combination of all these universities or of all these units. And to be honest, implementing such a thing is not easy. So we got stick. For instance, it's a lovely concept, but it's pretty hard to make precise definitions of data and enter them in exactly the same way. And if you don't, the community module as such doesn't work properly. Fortunately, a couple of months ago, we got news that the Amsterdam UMC is creating a new website to make a representation of its research and its researchers. And for my personal life, I think that we should try to avoid words like management information, and we should very much focus on helping researchers presenting themselves, and pure or output registration is just one of the tools they can use to do so. So, in here, the community module helps wonderfully. We have the research of the Amsterdam UMC combined in a research institute, but that it consists of participants, of the University of Amsterdam, the Free University, but also of the University Medical Centers and partly of the University of Applied Science. Basically, what you want is something like this. Hey, this is a preview of our coming website. And if you click on a researcher, you find here Dr. Jaspers, and you go to his personal page, you see all the data coming from the community model, and which is wonderful. So we have the output registration, and we combine it directly to our website. And we're studying the options of adding a portal to the community module as such. It's complicated, it raises a lot of questions, but it could be an enormous powerful tool, at least for the virtual Amsterdam UMC organization. Using the module has its pros and its cons. It's wonderful to have single source, so we could easily access all data, or almost all data, because not everything is available. What even helps more is that output is deduplicated. So if a program or an institute has co-authors in the same article, it's only showed once. It's a lot better than showing a lot of doubles. And Elsevier is very much helping us with support. So as soon as there's a new question, they really invest in time to understand what we want, and we try to find solutions. Well, I'm not really. Sorry for that. There is also, of course, some problems. Well, it's the same part. It's pioneering, so we try to find out a wheel. That's not always easy. It's at present working with a community as a one-size-fits-all option, so there's no filtering on people or filtering on units possible at present. And, if there's a data error in the community module, you need to solve it locally, and in the end persons are not yet deduplicated, so we estimated that we should serve about 6,000 researchers, but we have 8,000 in all the relevant pure backends. And personally, my first rule of thumb is that things should be pretty easy, keep it as simple as possible. And what we're doing here is a very complex landscape. We have several pure instances. They get the information together in the community module. If it's a relevant record, it's been sent to the new website of the Amsterdam UMC. And if you want to see the full profile of researcher, you have to go to the, possibly have to go to the Pure portal. But if you're working on the University of Amsterdam, we need find ways to refer you to the local Amsterdam University website. So we're not sure how we are going to solve this, but we think that technically we have a lot of options. And this is where it really gets interesting. If we can make this work in Amsterdam, perhaps we can do even more. Last year, we negotiated with Elsevier as the publisher a new open access deal. So we are able to access all their journals, and we are able to publish open access as much as we need to. And we decided to explore ways of a new open science landscape together. And I think Pure might be one of the elements. If you just take a close look at the open science objectives, it's all about finding new ways of recognizing researchers, finding new ways of alternative metrics or narratives. It's all about, well, how can we achieve 100% open access so information and scientific insights can get around as quick as possible, and perhaps the greatest challenge, how can we make research data really fair? I think that if you put Pure in the middle, or any output registration system, or a combined system of output registration data, it could be the center of such a new open science surface landscape. You could combine easily the data of several institutions, for instance on COVID or on artificial intelligence or whatever, from several universities or several university medical centers or interdisciplinary faculties. You could say, well, we have a clear overview of all our articles, so we know what we need to do to get them all open access, and it gets even better if we could use that as a basis for fair research data. For instance, by combining an article with a link to the raw research data, an overview of the metadata set, etc., etc. And in the end, you could also see how funding is related to articles published. So in the end, you could show how articles are helping the open access agenda of a country. In my case, the Netherlands. It would be best, I think, if we could turn things around. We now are entering articles or any output from the back. So we try to find them in Scopus. We enter them in the AMC Pure. They are going to the Amsterdam University Medical Centers Pure, etc., etc. But it would be a wonderful thought if we could deburden the whole consortium, or perhaps the whole country, by doing the opposite way. So we find an article published by any Dutch universities and entering it and pushing them forward to the right Pure instance. Just a thought. I think I'll skip this one because I guess there are there might be some questions in the end. So to take home, for me, the most important thing is that you need to focus on presenting research and researchers and not focusing on collecting management information. It helps enormously if it's very, very up to date. We still work with Scopus and we still enter data on a week-to-week basis. So we want to be as actual as possible, as up to date as we can. And we're looking for ways to reuse the data as much as possible. So it's not only in the output registration, it's not only for evaluation, it's not only for publishing on the internet, it's also for business intelligence or wherever it's relevant. And by doing so, by combining these things, I think you need to focus on bringing an excellent service And please keep in mind my new word for you, deburden. Well, guys, that's about it, I guess.
Thank you, Lieuwe. Thank you for this great new word. I'll try to keep it in mind and pick it up. We have at least one question from the audience, and I would start with that. It's what are the key benefits of the Amsterdam Consortium? Is it about sharing the admin burden, or is it about strengthening marketing your research to the outside world, or both, perhaps?
Well, you gave me the answer. It's both. Perhaps the best thing is that if we combine our data, usually we'll find 90% of what's published in our institutions, but we are publishing a lot of it together. And by combining it, each unit has a better coverage. And again, if we are able to publish our output to a website through the community module, it helps enormously for finding new ways. COVID is a very interdisciplinary topic, for instance. We are now focusing on the medical part, which is of course my role, being in the Amsterdam University Medical Center. But if you could combine it with, for instance, behavior sciences or economic sciences, you could make a better presentation for the universities of Amsterdam.
Thank you. I hope this answers the question. There are some more. One is referring to the support, to the organization of the support. It's how have you organized the support function for the consortium? Do you share responsibility, or do you take turns?
That's a pretty good question. We do it for 3 years now. It took us 2 years to get the consortium module really operating. For some parts, it's pretty easy. If you focus on straightforward research, how shall I call it? For straightforward scientific articles, it's pretty easy. If you take into consideration that we also want to add prizes with a more open metadata, more open descriptions, it can be very, very cumbersome to agree how to note it, and only if you note it properly you can combine it.
Yes.
So what we do, sorry to answer your question, we have a steering group, and we tried to decide on each topic by the steering group, but that's not. We have to be more agile here. There's a big difference between someone who is really understanding the business and someone who is steering on a very high level. So we need to be in between those two levels.
So perhaps this already answers a little bit of the next question, which is, are you also using Pure as a reporting tool on the collected data in the consortium, or do you just use the reporting possibilities separately?
No, we do it quite a lot. For instance, during the process of the merger, all the internal departments want to know what happens once we have merged. Or the university wants to know, okay, what happens if the university, if both medical centers have merged, what happens to the rankings then? Of course, it doesn't answer all these questions, but at least we could present some data and say, okay, here's the data, good luck.
Yeah, thank you. I would like to ask a question at the end. I'm interested in personally. So you have the medical centers on the one hand, and on the other hand, you have the university with what you already said, subjects and communities of quite a different nature. How do you combine this, and how have you ideas or already ways of addressing this beside this steering committee? How to handle certain inputs or also the meaning of certain types, how to handle them?
Yeah, we do. We started recently, and basically it's we need to find user groups in our organization presenting a user story. If there's a story, we can try to solve it. If there's no story at all, perhaps it's not such a problem.
Okay. There's another question coming in. For the idea of expanding this to cover the whole of the Netherlands, what about the institutions who don't have Pure?
Well, it only makes sense if you can include them. Otherwise, perhaps I should mention that we explore new ways with Elsevier, but we very much insist that it must be, the ultimate solution must be vendor neutral. So if there is another system or another source, we need to be able able to enter it, and everyone who's interested needs to be able to get his data out again.
This seems to me a very good last word. Thank you, Lieuwe, very much for your presentation.